Hello chess lovers, welcome to the new video. We're going to be covering a game between Wojtaszek and Abasov from round 6 of Prague Chess Masters. Let's get right in. So after the opening moves d4, knight f6, c4, a6, knight f3, d5, we have a typical position of Queen's Gambit declined, which transposes after knight c3, bishop b4 into Rogozin defense. Now cd5, ed5, and here white decided to develop the c1 bishop before pushing e3 in order not to block it. So bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, castle kingside. And only now we have e3 because the h4 bishop is out of the pawn chain. So bishop f5 followed a nice developing move, taking a post on a nice diagonal. Queen b3, bishop c3, bc3. Let's talk about this position. So here the material is obviously equal, but as you can see, white has a bishop pair while black does not possess a complete pair of bishops. So if the position would open up, this material balance would be in white's favor, most probably. We have knight bd7, and here you can maybe notice that the queen is attacking the b7 pawn, but it's not really wise to take that pawn. Let's look at it. For example, queen b7, rook b8, attacking the queen. White can grab another pawn, but there follows rook a8 with perpetual attack against white's queen. If white decides not to go to a7 and to escape from all the attacks, then he would actually give black the initiative after the following moves. Rook b1 is threatened because the queen is supporting it, and white king is still in the center. Very dangerous position, not recommended. For these reasons, white did not capture the pawn, but instead he just developed his bishop to e2. We have c5 striking the center, and of course for similar reasons taking on b7 is almost never good. So we have dc5, knight takes c5, and queen b4. Here you might be tempted to jump with your knight into white's position and disturb him with knight d3, attacking both queen and king. So bishop d3 force, bishop d3, and now it looks really good that black has a bishop here, preventing castling. But after queen d4, attacking the bishop, it has to move. Bishop a6, and let's say bishop f6, gf6. We can see that black's pawn structure is ruined. Those are really weak pawns, and the price white had to pay for it is that his king in the center, but that king can actually find a safe haven on d2 in some variations. It's not so easy for black to actually do damage in this position to white. So that's why this move did not happen. Instead, we had rook c8, and now white castled, and now since the white has castled, black can be more liberate with his pawn in front of his king. So he broke this pin with g5, bishop g3, queen e7, and here white decided to transfer the bishop from g3 to d4 because that's a more active post, and he can do that via this route. So bishop a5 and rook fd8. Instead of rook fd8, a more centralizing move like knight to e4 was to be preferred. Okay, rook fd8, rook ad1. Now knight e4 followed, and we have the mentioned maneuver bishop d4. So bishop traveled a lot, but now it's sitting on a nice square, controlling a lot of squares. And this is the first interesting position where black made a mistake. So he should try to somehow solidify his position with a move like b6. So this move supports the knight and also opens up the 7th rank so that the queen can protect this pawn if necessary. You will see that this is important later on. Instead of that, he went for rook d6. It looks like a nice move. You were having aggressive ideas, but let's see. As you remember, white has 2 bishops, so what he needs to do? He needs to open the position. So c4. Let's make some tension here and try to open up the position for our bishops. Rook b6, queen e1, attacking the queen away so that it cannot be chased anymore. That's a really good spot for the queen. It's a little bit passive, but it's only temporary. The upside of this square is that queen cannot be easily attacked. d4 followed, bishop c4. Now black tried to exchange one pair of bishops because that's white's advantage, the bishop pair. So he played bishop e6, and it would be really a typical classical mistake here to go for bishop e6 and queen e6, where white is still a little bit better, but he doesn't have his bishop pair anymore, and that explains the next move, bishop e2. So white is ready to sacrifice a pawn, but because he's ready to do that, he will preserve his bishop pair. Okay, rook d6 followed, knight e5, and finally black took. So now black is a pawn up. He has 2 pawns on A and B files, and these are passed pawns and connected as well, but they aren't going anywhere for now, while white has nice pawns in the center which might move forward, take more space from black, and allow white's pieces to generate more activity. So let's see, f3, chasing the knight. I think it only has 1 square, knight f6, and here, instead of the move that was played, queen a5, a good way to continue was f4. So why f4? Well, the idea is this strong bishop is pointing at the king. Then we have knight on e5, and also there is a rook lurking here. So by moving the pawn to f4, you are enticing opening of some files and making more space for your pieces to join the attack and attack a black's king. Instead of that, white went for queen a5, and the idea of this move is just to regain material. So it's a double attack against the pawn and the bishop. And here, black should have escaped with his bishop with a gain of tempo, attacking the rook. And when the rook moves, he can still play b6 and protect the a7 pawn, while also evacuating his bishop at the same time. So he would be not in a better position, but he would be a pawn up with 2 nice pawns. So if white doesn't succeed in his intentions on the king side, at least black has something for it. But with the move played, which was queen a6, black still has all those problems, while after queen a7 he is not even a pawn up. So the material is equal, and white still has ideas like this, or to play in the center of the board. b6 followed, supporting the knight. And here again f4 was the way to go. This move would be very unpleasant for black, introducing ideas of opening the g file and the f file, so that would be very unpleasant for black's king. But instead of that, Wojtaszek chose a little bit more positional approach. Not bad, but the other one was better. So he played bishop a1. So he tucked his bishop away, and offered an exchange of rooks, which followed rook d1, and now a strange move, queen b3. It's aggressive. You attack the pawn, you want to take it with a check and cause trouble to white. But after white plays king f1, you cannot take on e3 because the a2 bishop is hanging, so you don't have time, because taking on e3 is not with check anymore. And here the smartest thing would have been to just retreat, to allow the bishop to retreat as well. But okay, he played rook e8. We have bishop d4 with a very interesting threat. If you play here, if black gives you time to do that, then the a2 bishop will be attacked twice by white's heavy pieces and only defended once, and it could not escape. There is no space. It's blocked by the queen. That's why queen e6 followed to open up some space. Rook a1 followed, bishop d5, and now the mentioned move e4. So white is expanding, is taking squares from black, and slowly he's overtaking the position. Note that this diagonal is very important, so you cannot really move your bishop away. If you go bishop c6, bishop c4, and the f7 spot collapses with the rook falling as well. So if you're going to move the bishop, you have to move it along the diagonal. The only square available is b3, so bishop b3, then bishop b5 would be a good move, attacking the rook, keeping the initiative going. And also this b3 bishop, it's just a defensive piece along the a2 g8 diagonal. It's not really doing anything. It's hitting some empty squares, so it looks good, but it's not really a good piece. So instead of that, that was one option. Instead of that, Abasov chose knight b3 with some hopes, because he attacks two pieces. It looks good, but it's white's turn to move, so he first captures here, attacking the queen. Queen recaptured, and now a nice move, bishop c3, saving the bishop and giving the rook. Knight a1, and here queen a1 is a winning move. Of course, you have two pieces and nonetheless two bishops against a rook with queens on the board. That should be decisive, but Wojtaszek chose a different approach, so he played bishop c4, so he decided to play against the f7 spot. If you just move your queen without check, then a disaster might follow this way or that way. So queen d1 check, bishop e1, and here again we have a triple attack. You cannot take the knight. If you take on e5, and then you just get checkmated after this series of moves. That's a forced checkmate. Nothing black can do there. So you can't take the knight, and you have to defend this. So how do you do it? You cannot go with the rook here because the knight can jump here using this pin. So what black did is he played knight d7, cutting queen's access to the f7 spot, but he didn't cut the bishop's access. So bishop f7, king f8, bishop e8, king e8, and here there is an opportunity for white to make a big mistake. So if he captures with the queen, if he trades queen d7, knight d7, king d7, he can't win anymore. He can even lose if he's not careful. So instead of that, he has to capture with the knight. Now, what's the difference? The difference is there is no trade of queens. So if black recaptures with his queen, we just take his knight and we have extra bishop. So black can't do that. So that's why he gave a check. And now he was hoping for some kind of checks that might produce something. So a series of checks followed, but nothing came out of it. And here we have to be careful again. You don't just capture the knight. If you do that, after queen e6, there is a double attack, and again, we cannot win that position. So instead of capturing the knight, first you give a check to the king, and the king has to go somewhere. So the 7th rank is controlled. You cannot go here because of the checkmate, so king f8. And again, you don't take the knight because queen c3 forks 2 pieces, so you cannot win that. Instead of that, you go queen b8 check. Very good move. And now black he's lost, but he has only one move that looks like some kind of fight, because after king f7 he loses his queen, queen g8, king f6, queen c4, or after king g7 he loses a piece, knight h5, king g6, queen e8, protecting the knight, and then on the next move capturing on e1. That's why king e7 had to be played, but now we have another check and defending the knight at the same time, which will allow white to capture finally this knight. King f7, king e1, the knight is protected, white has an extra piece, black is lost, but he continued. Queen c1, king f2, queen d2, king g3, and now black can regain his piece, but the price for that is entering a lost pawn endgame. Let's see that in action. Queen f4, g f4, king f6. So pawn endgame, which is lost. Why is it lost? Because of these clamps of pawn, and because white king can easily catch this guy. Let's look how it happened. King e4, king e6, g4, b5, f4. What will happen is white will make a protected passed pawn, so that the black king can never capture his pawns. Then with his king he will go here and capture the black pawn on b5, and then he will come back with his king and support his pawns in making a queen. Alright, so this is where Abasov resigned. Very nice game by Radoslav Wojtaszek. Very nice classical style technical game. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned from it. If you did, please do subscribe, like, share, and comment. See you in the next video. Bye!